Bitcoin is going to be the fundamental baseline and the layer that the whole financial system will be anchored on. So I don't have any urgency for this. And that sense of not wanting it now, not having that instant gratification is what people need to sort of think about when they're thinking about their investments. Everything's long-term. These huge funds didn't start overnight. We're all used to the hype stories, but these hype stories, they're not overnight success. They take a long time to deliver. So I would say quit with the Amazon brain and think about in 10, 15 years' time.
Hello, this is Bitcoin Libertarian. Our guest today is Alison Proctor. Alison is a passionate Bitcoin advocate, host of the Be or Not to Be podcast, and a voice bridging traditional finance with digital capital. With a background that includes the Wharton School and deep dives into Bitcoin's role in energy, capital markets, mining, and monetary systems, she's built a presence on Substack, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Her work explores how Bitcoin intersects with real-world finance, from treasury strategies and grid dynamics to broader questions of money, energy, and optionality in a changing world. Today, we'll dive into Bitcoin's evolution, its misunderstood aspects like mining, practical investing insights for individuals and institutions, and what the future holds as traditional systems adapt. Alison, welcome.
Wow. Is that really me? Thank you so much, Fernando. Thanks for taking the time today. And I know that you're also a huge advocate in the Bitcoin Treasury world, and there's an awful lot going on there. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Yes, I'm a big advocate in the Bitcoin Treasury space. In the last weeks, the sentiment hasn't been so good. First, because of Bitcoin fall, then what happened with strategy and the digital credit and all the further around this topic. So let's see how it goes. But first of all, I want to ask you the first question, and is how were you orange pilled?
Okay, so I first discovered, or Bitcoin discovered me in just coming up for 2012. So 2011, 2012. And I was living in Spain then, coming out of the great, as it's now known as the great financial crash. And I've been through several crashes previously. So this was the big one because I was involved in development finance for real estate. And that real estate stemmed from the Costa del Sol to Dubai, Bulgaria, Istanbul, all pretty much all over Europe and to the Middle East. The Great Crash then sort of brought everybody to their knees, and I needed to find a way to sort of still to survive. So a young firm asked me if I would look at an alternative to Bitcoin and help them market this. This was a long time ago, so I'm going from memory. But at the time, I'd never even heard of Bitcoin. What's Bitcoin? So I was trying to wrap my head around what is this digital monetary system? My traditional finance background I just couldn't get it. But the more I looked into it, the more I thought this is really interesting. And so I think I made a comment on Facebook at the time. Well, that was it. Basically, I was trolled out of even investing or working for any alternative coin, anything to do with Bitcoin. And that the amount of FUD, I just didn't have the expertise to counteract any of this fear, uncertainty, doubt over this new technology called Bitcoin. So I didn't look at it again for years. So my story is so similar to other people that by the time I came back to Bitcoin back in 2018, 2019, I was again still really an observer. But I was obviously, I would say since then, completely and utterly orange pill to the point where I see it as really the only future for the entire financial system to base on a fixed supply that gives us certainty And that certainty is what's lacking at the moment in across not just financial markets, governments, freedom, expression, everything. So I see that it's not the answer to everything, but it is a fixed pathway to more certainty financially and for everybody's lifestyle.
Yes, I think so. I think that is a great change for humanity to have this asset with fixed supply. So not anyone, nobody can operate it. Nobody can print more. That is what is bringing our to all the financial crisis is for the abuse on the printing of money. And then you went into the Bitcoin Treasury ecosystem. How did you go into that ecosystem?
I think the leap from just understanding Bitcoin went through to the basically how environmentally friendly is it? How does it tick the ESG box? Again, so it was a leap in terms of understanding what Bitcoin can do. So my background in terms of environmental and social sustainable finance meant I wanted to look into Bitcoin just to see again the FUD around the energy usage. And I could see there's lots of solutions, and there are lots of businesses now that have found renewable and wasted energy solutions. So that again ticked a box for me. And I thought, right, it's worth exploring further. Coming from a financial background that's funded developments in real estate, I looked at Bitcoin then as more than just a store of value, and more than just even the use cases where businesses across Africa are beginning to trade from it. And again, that was an area that I was interested in. So looking at how complex the financial system is, if Bitcoin became the base layer and businesses in the UK, and again, I'm from the UK, therefore I'm looking at what would happen, could make use of Bitcoin, then this is going to be something that anchors them to a better financial system. And it was my other half who invested just like moments after the IPO for the Smarter Web company. And he said he's made this like small investment. And I said, what have you done? Well, no, normally we talk about everything. But within an hour of him saying, right, okay, this is who the company is, and this is the Bitcoin on the balance sheet. It's like, oh, okay, that's a lot more interesting. So having looked into it then, we met Andrew Webley in Surrey. Can't believe it's only about a year ago now. I think it was in July last year that we met him. And I'm always a great believer in meeting the people who you're investing in. And that sort of allayed any issues that I had with, have we done the right thing? And so just as an aside as well, from that point, I got all the way to the top. And during the time when you've got skin in the game, you really analyze a company. You really look deeply into what they are trying to achieve, what management team they've got around them, everything. So the upshot being that Bitcoin has fallen, treasury companies have fallen, but the underlying, the framework, the fundamentals haven't changed. In fact, if anything, they've got better. So that's how I came to the treasuries. And I'm a big advocate for UK treasury companies, the European treasury companies, of course, sailors leading the pack, and I try and defend wherever I can when there's fear and uncertainty and doubt there, because I can see how Bitcoin will be better for the entire financial capital stack.
What do you think? Why do you think that Bitcoin would be better for the entire financial stack?
So the first thing is the protocol, the open protocol. There's no with a lot of financial markets now, they're very opaque. You don't know what's going on. The private markets are huge. You haven't got a clue what's happening there. And even in ETF baskets that are opaque, you can't see what's going on. But with the blockchain, with the open source protocol and how it can be verified, there's a lot more honesty within that. And then obviously the fixed supply means if you're looking at, so for example, again, I come from an environmental, sustainable background in finance. When you've got a fixed supply, you're working within parameters. And so nothing to do with the currency debasement or inflation, which is eroding for the next generation. We know that. But a fixed supply changes the behavior of how people think. They work within limits and parameters. And that doesn't mean to say that growth will stop. It just means to say that the mindset changes on discipline and accountability. So for me, we are going to have stable coins in the future. And I also hope that we have a stable coin that's backed by Bitcoin. But Bitcoin, I think, will be the fundamental base layer that the institutions are now starting to recognize. So that's why I think billions and billions of dollars, euros and pounds are going into companies that have got Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And also they're investing in their own Bitcoin, because eventually they all know that this is going to produce more trust in the financial system.
Yes, and what was the main thing that you saw in Bitcoin in Smarter Web Company with Andrew that convinced you to be not only an investor but an advocate of the idea?
A cheerleader, yeah, absolutely. So, well, I think most of all, it's the looking into the management team. I'm already orange pilled on Bitcoin, so that wasn't an issue. It's who is delivering and who's executing on this. So, went to meet Andrew Webley. My gut instinct. When you can have a feeling, it's a feeling about someone. And it's the honesty and the openness that person displays. Then he's also backed by 15, 20 years of experience within Hargreaves Lansdown, which is the financial aspect of understanding the markets. And then he brings on board Jesse Myers. Now, you can't have anyone better than Jesse Myers other than perhaps Mr. Saylor, because even Mr. Saylor has taken the thesis from Jesse Myers. So that was like a sure sign for me. And then bringing, if I say local knowledge in the financial markets, Jamie Knowles knows his stuff. And he knows the London, the city and the markets and how they work. And we need to educate more people into how a Bitcoin Treasury company works. So there's nobody better on the ground than Jamie Knowles. So there you've got a great management team. And that's it in a nutshell. It's who's the team. And now we've got a great CFO. There's always been a good team there. But we've got the financial guy heading this up, who's put his money where his mouth is, and he's actually invested in the company to some tune. So the commitment's there, and I like the commitment from a strong team.
Excellent. And since the last time, so since I met you at the conference that was just 1 month ago, Bitcoin went from around 73,000 up to 59 that is now, dropped around 15% on the price, and the treasury companies dropped even bigger. What is your take about this moment? What do you think that is happening?
Okay, so aside from my frustration that not everybody can see this opportunity and this potential at the same time, I genuinely believe there are two principal things at play for me. The first is an understanding. If you've lived your entire life within the traditional financial system, you've learned a language, you've learned whole systems, you've the patterns that you're in are very difficult to break. Like a habit, it's difficult to break. You've got to put the work in. So a lot of people don't understand it. And that's really become evident even on X, where people don't understand how these capital structures are being built and what it takes to build them. So I believe that the institutions all see it, but we're talking about, hundreds of trillions of dollars and power. And they will really move on this in a big way when the time suits them. And it's beginning to suit them. And we can see that the money is shifting, but there's power there. So I would not discount the amount of let's say, for example, high frequency trading that can really have an effect, because AI now is having an effect. So aside from the pivot of available money to go into investments, and we know that that's gone into AI, and we know there's a huge amount of IPOs coming up, and people are going to be thinking about, where do I put my money? I think that's lowered the priority for Bitcoin Treasury company. But I see it as, again, a timing aspect. This is just not financial advice, but hold firm. It's happened to pretty much every industry that's ever existed, every new technology that's ever existed. You could look at Amazon, where Amazon was trading 98% down years ago. Who remembers that? Nobody today remembers that. The biggest company on the planet. So for me, and it's easy to jump on the fear bandwagon. It's much easier to jump on the fear bandwagon than it is to have conviction and stay strong. So for me, it's just a learning curve. It's a steep learning curve for everybody. There's a timing aspect, and then the fear aspect, controlled by who the big institutions, what do they say about it, and how much individual knowledge do people have on a Bitcoin treasury firm.
Yes, agree on that. It's not a good time, but what, for example, you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, like since 2019. You've been in Smarter Web companies just after the IPO. How do you suggest people should manage the frustration? Because we saw a lot of people that went into Bitcoin last year when Bitcoin was near the all-time high. They went to the Bitcoin treasury companies where they were growing up to near the all-time heights. And now they feel frustrated. They feel that they should sell at a loss and move on. What is your, I wouldn't say advice, because nothing is financial advice here, but your suggestion, your take on that?
Yeah. So my take comes from the longevity of the marketplace and the focus. So for me personally, I've done my career. I've had 40 odd years building a career, building fiat savings, which I've seen debased. I've seen, just over the last few years, how that money is not worth what it was projected to be worth 20, 30 years ago. So I take a step back on, let's say, on practical terms. You should just forget about it for the time being and go and practice Tai Chi, go walking, go join a group, forget all about it. And then come back in a couple of years and be pleasantly surprised, because things happen really quickly. And so that's one way to sort of manage the emotional side of it. In terms of, it's difficult, because I can see where it's going to be in 10, 15 years time. Most people can't. Okay, another example, and I'm using Amazon, but I call it the Amazon brain, because people now instantly order, instantly want, and expect it the next day. You don't have the same time frame. So I look back at my career and I see how quickly it went. And I see that I could have planned for something 40 years ago. I'm here now today. reaping that reward, either the reward or the punishment for not doing it. So my time scale is actually not for me personally, and that then takes the emotion out of it. I'm doing this for the next generation, the 9 grandchildren. The decisions that I take today are going to affect them in the future. So I want to make the right decision. And for me, that is Bitcoin is going to be the fundamental baseline and the layer that the whole financial system will be anchored on. So I don't have any urgency for this. And that sense of not wanting it now, not having that instant gratification is what people need to sort of think about when they're thinking about their investments. Everything's long term. These huge funds didn't start overnight. You know, we're all used to the hype stories, but these hype stories, they're not overnight success. They take a long time to deliver. So I would say quit with the Amazon brain and think about that in 10, 15 years time.
Yes, of course. Nothing is created from one day to the other. And again, it's all takes time, and especially these kind of industries that are quite new. We are looking for a lot of reward into the Bitcoin treasury space, but this is an industry that has been created 2 years ago. So Sailor started stacking in 2020. Then 2024, MetaPlanet started their own treasury, and last year most of the company were built. So I think that we need to go for these moments where there is FUD and then move forward. Yes, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say baby steps. And also, this is all playing out in full view. This is transparent. People are, changing the metrics, let's say, evolving the metrics, the language that's being learned. This is a little baby. I know the whole world is watching it to crawl, fall down, get back up again, learn to walk, run into a wall. We are watching this playing out in real time. And so people today wanting this baby to run have to be patient. We are learning, and we've got to give space for the cooks to cook, for the scientists to invent, for all of the people around this ecosystem to work together. I mean, it's going to be difficult if we're all arguing with each other about what's right and what's wrong. Let's get behind what works. And we've now seen this week that, Michael Saylor has just delivered something that the markets like, because he's showing that he understands the entire financial system and the capital stack and what the markets want. And ironically, they still want fiat on the balance sheet to give them a bridge across. And that's really what I want to do with my podcast, is provide that bridge of communication, the bridge of education. And that's one of the reasons that I absolutely love your podcast, is because you're continually talking to people that understand this space and the experts, and you pull out of them the answers that people need to hear.
Yes, that's the main point, the education. And one of the things that I want to ask you is, how do you feel when you go into Twitter and you see all the FUD? Because I go and I see all the FUD about treasury companies, about Bitcoin. How do you feel? And how do you react on that? You ignore, or you try to engage with the conversation?
So I joined X a year ago as well. So most of this is because, I did invest in treasury companies, and the main one being the Smarter Web. So I joined purely because there was a community there, and it was the largest. I think it was one of the largest communities actually on X. And so I needed to learn, where are the experts? They were in the X community. And so that was a wholly positive experience, so much so that I was quite an advocate for X overall. And then when the sentiment changed, it was almost like lemmings off a cliff, all wanted to just dive off. And I was like, what's going on? So I have only a 1 year experience with X, and the community within Smarter Web has been phenomenal. Joe Bryant actually has another community, What's the Problem? And then there is a Bitcoin community. So I don't engage as much as I do on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is not known for being pro Bitcoin, really. It's growing. There's a small community there. And that's one of the reasons that I opened the group, Bitcoin Treasury and Capital Markets, to educate. And it's tiny, it's fledgling, it's a bit like my podcast. It's at the very earliest stages, but it is educational and it's no hype. There's no silly memes. It's meant to be a grown-up professional educational platform. So with X, I think the compounding, the amplification effect of certain voices that are able to move the dialogue and move that dial, it is amplified. And again, the other irony is that's what happens with a Bitcoin treasury company. It amplifies Bitcoin. So I would say if you want to give Bitcoin a chance now to grow back to all-time high, and if you want it to go beyond there, get behind the good treasury companies. And I'll use the word good because a lot of the uncertainty has come from some bad practice. But any nascent business, any nascent industry or sector will always have its opportunists, its detractors. It will always have people jumping on the bandwagon to get what they can and get out. I've seen it before. So you have to do your due diligence and you have to do your research on what is a good treasury company. And in my opinion, MicroStrategy is a is a very good treasury company. Smarter Web in the UK, you've got MetaPlanet, Alexandra's company, Capital B. Across Europe, we've great companies, and we've got good ones here in the UK. But we're all growing at tiny incremental steps. So I enjoy X in short, but I have to be very disciplined about where I go on X.
Yeah, of course, because again, X is like a big a platform where anyone is shouting to everyone, and you need to allow to differentiate who is really legit and who is doing FUD or whatever to farm engagement for them. And you said that there are good treasury companies and bad treasury companies. Which things make a treasury company good and which things make a treasury company bad from the investor perspective?
Yeah, so communication's always key, and clear updates coming out regularly. That's a major factor in all of this, because it's the learning and the understanding, and then keeping the shareholders as a priority. The shareholders and investors in the business, keeping them informed. I think that's so important that you feel like you're then part of the business. As opposed to just a bystander. So I would say that's a good treasury policy, and it's a good policy that any company should have, and they don't. So they're leading the way on that in a way that business is more transparent, but then it's open because it becomes more vulnerable sometimes. So the bad treasury companies, obviously communication's lacking, but some of the decisions that were taken in terms of, I mean, you can call it a rug pull, some of the pipe deals, some of the get quick rich schemes, they've provided the doubt for good businesses. So good businesses have to climb above that now and show that they are far more professional and have more integrity, consider the shareholders and the stakeholders, and sort of deliver a plan that they can be accountable for. So for me, you can find them. They are definitely out there. We've got some good ones in the UK.
Excellent. And talking about your own podcast, when did you start it and why?
So it's stalled in the last couple of weeks because I've just come back from Spain where we live, and I've lived for 20 years, and then we lived there half the year. So today actually, this is the ramp up of To Be or Not to Be. I started it because actually AI was a sign that if we don't know what's real, we're never going to know what's real. So I thought the only way to do it, I'd been writing a newsletter. I'm in my 4th year of a monthly newsletter. And so that's evolved as I've discovered the potential that Bitcoin has for the financial markets, for real estate, for all industries. So basically for all business. So, but the newsletter is swamped in a world of newsletters and emails. Who reads it? You know, all the effort that goes into it. But people like now the sound bites of short videos, and they like listening on podcasts. So I started this in January, at the end of January this year. It was kind of like a New Year's resolution. I thought I'll see where it goes. And since then because it's from blockchain to Bitcoin and everything in between, I'm learning about the whole ecosystem. And therefore, I need to speak to economists and lawyers and not just treasury companies, but people who are market makers, the stablecoin fraternity, the exchanges. So I've got an awful lot coming up as well. And I've done it because people to people is always the best way.
Yes, I think so. And what do you think? How do you think that this podcast that random people like you, like me, just pick up a camera and start talking? We are not professionals like Pompliano, as an example, or Tim Kotzman. What do you think that this content add to the ecosystem and the community?
Well, without doing us a disservice, I would say the ordinary person in the street now can be, and this is from YouTube. I'm currently on YouTube, but also going to expand onto Fountain. But YouTube, I've always loved YouTube. It's where ordinary, normal people pick up a phone, a camera, and deliver a message to the world. And you sort of find your way through. So whereas I would sort of go down that rabbit hole and end up watching, giraffes teaching mice how to walk, crazy things on YouTube, you can find a seam of education and information that works. So for me, it's just a great thing to work with the camera and ordinary people, and they can identify this is what's happening in a world of jargon. We can break through that jargon.
Yes, agree on that, and especially because in a field where there is not so much information and things can be complicated, it's better to have more and to talk about these topics in a normal way without strange words, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's one of the reasons why I'm on the LinkedIn page. I'm trying to translate the terminology and the acronyms. Nobody knows what a PBIT is or the MNAV are unless you're actually deep in the system. Because the people that understand finance or investment, they might know what a PE ratio is, and how many years it will take to see your return on that investment, but they don't know what an MNAV is. And so there's so much, such a big gap that I can write about it and put it down on paper, and then that sort of forms a ledger, if you like. But you need to update by just talking to people and then saying, so tell me then what is the MNAV for a British Treasury company, and how does that sit with a a company that has a PE ratio of 30 or 40 and your MNAV's what, 1:1? How does that work? So for me, the system of us talking to each other and explaining the terminology and what that means for businesses is really important to just talk in normal terms.
Yes, and what do you think that are the biggest misconceptions about the Bitcoin Treasury space?
So sorry, can you just repeat that? I
The,
just lost you for a moment.
the biggest misconceptions that the Bitcoin Treasury company have from the big investors and also from the retail investor.
Yeah, I think it's because it is so new. I can give you analogies. I mean, it's almost like when the analogy of when electricity, first appeared, and or the railroads in America. People still wanted to ride a horse. For years and years and years, the horse was still the best thing, until eventually people did switch on the light. The lights came on, and goods were transported without horse and carriage, made life easier. So I think there is that's the biggest misconception, is that this Bitcoin system, Bitcoin world and treasury companies is not there to make life difficult. It's there because life is going to be so much easier. And so the language and the understanding just needs like learning a new language, porque yo hablo español un poquito, pero lo siento porque estoy vaga. And I'm not going to learn more unless I practice. So, yeah, the misconception is making a decision and a judgment too quickly.
Yes, without understanding the math or judging with erroneous math, not with the correct math.
Yeah. And again, that's sort of evolving and establishing. So something that's new to me very recently, and I'm not going to explain it now, but CEBE as opposed to like the MNAV is a deeper metric and allows people to understand it more. And there isn't just one metric that explains a treasury company. There are several that work together. And when we all are on the same page and agree which are the best metrics, then we go out in force into the market and explain it more clearly.
I understand. Yeah, I agree. And what do you? I saw. Well, you were at the conference with your husband, so there is. I usually ask the people who is in my podcast, what do the relative one to your husband or your wife or your thinks about your investment. But what do you have any friends or family? I assume yes, that are not into Bitcoin, are not into treasury companies. What do they say about your investment and your advocacy on this kind of investment?
Well, when somebody doesn't understand something and the sentiment is low and the price has crashed, it's very easy for them to say, well, glad I didn't go there. But what we want to teach is that longevity and commitment and conviction actually reap rewards. So what do they say? At the moment, I'll say very little, but they know that we are 100% committed. And so I kind of say we're like the Richard and Judy, which was this famous television couple over here in the UK. And we're like the Richard and Judy of the Bitcoin treasury world, because we tend to do everything together. And that's partly why I've done the podcast singularly. I've interviewed Michael because his background, actually, London City, has been in finance his entire life. So he's taken businesses to IPO. He sold the business to Lehman Brothers just before the crash. So, he's got legendary status for timing. And he is a traditional finance person, the fiat world. But he gets it 100 million %. So what do they think? They think we're interesting sometimes, we're crazy at others. but we've got the passion and the enthusiasm to keep learning. And as you get older, my biggest advice is never stop learning.
Yes, that's the point. You never stop learning, because once you stop learning, is you stop living. Like when you learn something new, it makes you younger. I think that, I don't know if you agree on that.
Yeah, 100%.
And what do you think about the future of treasury companies? Not on the long term, but what do you think will happen in the short term with these new statements that Saylor has done? Do you see more companies coming, or do you see the environment quiet until Bitcoin comes back to a new bull run?
I see a consolidation of the ecosystem so that we're not actually working in silos. and that it helps when we have the conferences, because people from all backgrounds can come together. But so for example, Bitcoin really was the fundamental start of all of this entire system. But we all rely on each other, the interconnection for everything, and that needs to come together. So what do I see? I would like to see a treasury company working with an energy mining company in the UK. We have the worst energy policy on the planet at the moment. So I'm not going to go into the politics of it, but we also have a lot of stranded renewable energy that is subsidized to the tune of billions. You, as a treasury company, work with a mining company together. You're not only got Bitcoin on your balance sheet, but you're mining Bitcoin. So there's an opportunity there. So I see in the next 2 to 3 years consolidation of all of the experts in the UK, which means consolidation across Europe. And working with the successful American companies.
Excellent. And do you think that the retail is gonna be more interested in these companies when the dust settles?
I think retail will come back when they understand it better. So there's hype with any IPO. There's loads of hype. But generally in an IPO, you see a lot of the time it comes down and then it settles and it goes through a period of sort of flatness until we start to grow. So I see that's no different. But I do actually think the institutions have an opportunity with what Michael Saylor is doing and what Smarter Web and other companies can do in these preferred shares. So these financial products that would suit the institutions in the UK. I think that's our greatest opportunity at the moment, to get the institutions behind it. And the thing is, you don't even have to go all in. A small allocation, put some skin in the game and start to learn about it. Put a small amount. Everybody says it's on every disclaimer, don't put in any more than you can afford to lose. And if you can just put a small amount in, you will learn.
Yes, that's the main point. That's the main point. And what do you think that we should do from social media or podcast because we live in a world where you have to catch attention. The algorithm gives attention to things that are sensationalistic, like going to 1 million, or it's crashing. What should we do to get a balance? Because probably new people come watch this and they say, oh, what they are doing. What do you think that we should do from social media?
You're 100% right on the sensationalism. I've noticed the algorithms love controversy. They love to see an argument blow up. And that really doesn't help, does it? So I use the hare and the tortoise analogy, that I've always been steady Eddie. I'll always do something slowly and methodically, with occasional bouts of emotional outbursts. But I I just think we keep doing what we're doing, and try and grow it, try and bring more people in. So I've always been a collaborator. I don't see it as competition. I think if we have a collaborative ecosystem of YouTubers, podcasters, learning from each other, it brings more people in. The algorithms will then pick it up. They will see that this is a scene. It's compelling. Let's follow it. But I don't think we have to be in a constant state of anxiety or argument. I think there's a definite case for spreading the joy.
Excellent. So, and to close, I want to ask you two more questions. The first question is, how do you see the future of Bitcoin?
I will say that that's all I see in a financial system. That doesn't mean to say that it's going to disappear overnight. It won't be in my lifetime. This is for the grandchildren, one who's 16 this week and the other who's just 2 years of age. So I see the future for them. And I see them not even recognizing that their world evolves around Bitcoin, because it will just be a natural state.
Yes. And the last question is, if you had the chance to sit down with Satoshi Nakamoto, what would you ask, or what would you say to him, to her, or to them?
I would like to know how closely involved with that great financial crash that they were. I'd like to know how deep they were in that system. And I would like to find out what prompted them to create something that was the complete antithesis of the fiat capital system.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Anything else you want to add, and how people can contact you?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say thank you, because I think without you, my little podcast, which is fledgling, wouldn't have even got off the ground. It was your inspiration from you, your enthusiasm, your smiles, your curiosity, as you know. So you're my inspiration. So
Thank you very much.
Come out the way, first of all. Where you can find me, actually, mostly I'm on LinkedIn, Alison Proctor. The YouTube is at Blockchain to Bitcoin. The title is To Be or Not to Be. I've started a Substack, and I have a newsletter which goes out on LinkedIn monthly. So yeah, I'm there on the socials, and I'm on X as Investor Smarter.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for your words, because it's nice to it's nice to hear that I can inspire people, especially because my channel in English is not so big. I'm not native in English, so it's another level of difficulty to reach people in English, because in Spanish is much easier for me, because I can sit here and speak for 2 hours and no problem. But in English, it's different because it's not my language. But it's nice to see that, and this is something that I always encourage people. We need more podcasters. We need more legit people talking about Bitcoin, talking about treasury companies, so everyone can listen to them and make their own decisions. Because I'm a big supporter of the Bitcoin treasury companies, and I know that there are a lot of people that I don't like, and I accept it. But I only accept if I say, no, I don't like because this, and this. Probably, yes, it's not for you. But I don't like the people who only throw shit, only to farm engagement and sell you something. So again, we need more people, and thank you very much for your words, and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you at one of the conferences.
Yes, of course. Let's see what's happened next year. It's like next year. Let's see what the rest of this year brings. We are at the half of 2026. Things can change in this environment. When you've been enough time in this environment, in this industry, in Bitcoin, in the treasuries, you know that the things probably in 3 months can be totally different from now because it happened before. It doesn't have to take 3 years. But let's see. I'm sure I will be next year in Bristol because I had a great time, an amazing time. I love the city and I want to visit back again. And anyways, I think that I will go to your podcast soon.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, Alison, again, thank you very much for your time. Have a great day and the best of luck for everything you're doing.
And likewise to you as well, Fernando. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who is on the other side. If you like the episode, give a like, subscribe our channel, follow us on social media, follow also our guests on social media, because doing so, you help us a lot to paint the world orange. Share this episode with the people you hate. Share this episode with the people you love, because we must reach 8 billion people and give them the orange pill. See you in the next episode. Stay humble, stack sats, and remember, we are all Satoshi.